I know I went on and on about that, but I kind of have to. So it's almost like before we begin, I must begin with a bit of a disclaimer. Not really a disclaimer, it's not quite the right word, but rather an advisory, a warning. And it's only this, that what we are about to get into, you all have to understand, so you know what you're getting into, is a rather serious matter. This is not something one should take lightly. This is not something that was ever taken lightly by those who have done it in the past. In other words, in days gone by, this type of a thing was always done within the confines of the temple. It was done within the mystery schools. This is not something ever that you would come out like I'm doing and say, hey, guess what? I'm going to do a past life, I mean, on one level, even a part of me, I should say, recoils from it, from the fact that I'm doing it. But it's just that the times are changing. We have evolved. We're at a point now where apparently we can all handle it. I hope. I hope nobody can't today. But the thing is that it's one of those things that's rather serious in that way. So you all have to know that, okay? Because as a matter of fact, as you all know, knowledge is power. That's an old saying. And what we're going to learn today, once you know it, you know it. I mean, I can't unlearn you. I'm going to learn you, right? And I can't unlearn you. So once I show you how, you're going to know how. How do I know what you're going to do when you walk out the door? You see what I'm saying? But guess what? You're going to take it with you. So in other words, what you learn today, you will be able to demonstrate, use, teach later. I kind of would like to hope and think that you wouldn't be real quick to do that, simply because this is the kind of thing that it's not that type of a thing. This is one of those, shall I say, techniques, to use a funny word, but I can't think of a better one right now, which works all right, and it works almost in the case of anybody. Like one size fits all, and it'll work if you just do it the right way. But the thing is, it's so important that it be done within the confines of a certain kind of a force field, simply because of the nature of it and what it can do. So now y'all went, well, what do you mean? What's the danger? What's the problem here? I'll tell you what the problem is. Okay, because guess what? I discovered it on my own, and it's this. When we do this kind of work with permission, and that means we're asking, and we are going to ask, by the way, permission to do this, then it is understood that the higher principles of consciousness are engaged. But they don't have to be, and it can still work. Just like a pregnancy can occur when it's not timely, perhaps, when you don't expect it, and when you don't want it. It can happen. Because there's certain conditions that when they meet, certain things happen. Life has an automatic side to it. Right? You understand that? So therefore, it's important to realize that what I'm about to share with you can certainly work all right. Question is, what will be the consequences? They can be far-reaching. I'm going to very briefly share with you a story that happened to me, and then just so you all get an idea, so you'll know I'm not just whistling Dixie, which means I'm not just sitting here saying this to scare you. It is this. There was a time when I wanted to know what a friend of mine and I, what had been the relationship. And I had been getting blocks and things, indications that it probably wasn't a good idea, but I didn't listen, and I kept going and going and bucking and doing. Well, guess what? I knocked the door open, and I really wished I hadn't, because what happened was, not only did what I find out alter my whole perception, but it also altered their perception as well. There's a reason for the memory veil, believe me. There is a reason for it, or it wouldn't exist. The memory veil, that thing which seems to impose itself between lifetimes. The memory veil is that which, for a good reason, keeps you unaware of who you've been before. Now, just to give you an example, and this is what the guides have given me, and I like it. Okay, for some reason, I don't know why they like to use Liz Taylor, of all people. But she'll do, So Liz Taylor, okay? And the analogy was, let's consider Liz Taylor in her role as Cleopatra. Okay, nice role, big movie, right? A lot of money. Well, what if in the next movie she did, she couldn't get it out of her head? Can you imagine? Can you imagine her? Trying to be like Virginia Woolf or whoever else she was after that, and falling back into Cleo? Wouldn't work. You know what I mean? It really wouldn't work. Inappropriate. Wrong. Mess up the movie. Could cost a lot of money, as a matter of fact. Not to mention, could really mess up relationships. And maybe that might just be the most important thing of all, I think. So realize that whatever it is that the roles we play with a certain individual are very carefully looked at in the in-between state between lives. So there's a reason for it, and there's a reason why we don't remember it usually. That isn't to say you shouldn't trust feelings you have. If you like somebody, there's probably a reason for it. Chances are you liked them before. You don't necessarily have to know why. Some of us are curious little things, aren't we? So curious. Curiosity. What do they say about it? Kill the popoki. Knock them dead. See? Oh no. Oh no. We've got one with us. Maybe. Okay. Well, the thing is that if you ask them for permission on these types of things, normally you can kind of assume it's okay. We all have a higher principle, you know that. We have a higher self, call it a soul, call it a superconscious mind, call it a amakua, call it whatever you want. Point is, it's there. Thank God for that. So what we do then is we start to consider the gravity, the seriousness of what we're doing and why we are doing it. And that brings us to the next very important point. Not just that it's something one should not take lightly, should be careful about, but why are we here? What is the purpose of it? I am given to believe that you are all here because there is something to be gained by knowing something about your past lives. Otherwise, you probably wouldn't have the curiosity. Curiosity, what is that? Well, it's usually an impulse that is experienced subjectively, meaning from within yourself, that generates from the soul. Normally, there is something there. Now, that isn't to say that all curiosity should be, followed, okay? Because curiosity, in a very general way, is generated from the soul, not necessarily specifically. In other words, what is curiosity? It's that aspect of the soul that is saying, or shall I say, experiencing this thing about, I am here to learn. I grow through experience. So I am wanting experience. That's a curiosity, because there's a feeling of the soul is this ever-growing, ever-evolving unit of consciousness that always knows it can handle more and more and more. Now, that isn't to say that the current lifetime and the person that you may be can handle the same. It's a natural tendency of the soul to be curious, you understand. But it isn't always the wise thing, which is where your mental body and your intuition must come into play, that you need to, always satisfy it. Because, as we all know, there's times you can be curious about something that isn't your business, actually, So, just, again, it's like so many things. It's like physical strength. Just because you're strong, does that mean you have to go and beat someone up? No. The sexual energy, just because we all can, or most of us can, reproduce, does that mean that you should? No. You understand what I'm saying? I mean, come on, Just because one can do something does not mean one should do it in every case. We're given that freedom. We're given that power. And that's the beauty of it. I mean, God can do all things. Does that mean God is doing all things? Well, on one level, yes. But there would seem to be some kind of an order, or we would be in chaos and probably wouldn't be here right now. So we need to start looking at this from that point of view, you see, because it's quite true that we all have many powers and abilities that are only wise to use once in a while in certain situations, judiciously, as they say. So you don't just because you can do something, Some of you may know about the guide Estelle Roberts, who works with me. She, last summer, I believe it was, gave this series of talks mostly for women, or about women's issues, which is her favorite thing. And she talked about this time in Atlantis when, it's actually 24,000 years ago, which is the last time we were at the so-called age of Aquarius. Okay, an astrological age is 2,000 years. I'm not getting too far off the track here. So if you got 12 signs, well then 24,000 years ago was the last time we would have been back at the beginning of this astrological age that we are now, Aquarius, okay? Well, it's a sign of breakthroughs, it's a sign of technology, it's a sign of new things and wonderful things. Well, it just so happened that when we were there before, happened to be the Atlantean culture. Apparently the scientific community, which was constituted in those days equally of men and women, not like today, discovered that they could use sound for various purposes. I imagine like today we got lasers, it's coming into more, proliferation. Everybody's, lasers this, lasers that. They can do incredible things with lasers. Well, in those days it was sound. And I have a funny feeling there's a strong correlation between the two, Anyway, what they found was that they could use sound to kill. They could aim a sound beam at someone and burst somebody's heart, hit at the right pitch and the right frequency and whatnot, you see. Ooh, big thrill. So all of a sudden, the scientific community got all jazzed up about it. Unfortunately, I hate to say it, but especially the men, so we hear. And this thing, which I like to call the mad scientist syndrome, set in. Woo, what can we do with this? That thing. And interestingly enough, it was at that point where we're told that it just so happened that the women polarized and said, wait a minute, just because we can do this, does that mean we should do it? Conscience, right? And the men got, you party poopers, shut up already. We want to, like little kids, right, with a new toy, they wanted to figure out what the heck was going on. So they insisted and they persisted. And at one point, the women kept going, no, we see damage here, we see danger. Will somebody please tie them up? And the campaign literally was launched to silence them, the women. Discrediting them, assassination of character, all kinds of other things were initiated, and it began this interesting movement that unfortunately has snowballed to the present hour, sad to say. So in other words, you understand that why this has occurred. So, but you see what the point was, right? A power was realized, was generated, and all of a sudden the question was, should we use it? Should we not use it? How should we use it? See, and that's what went on. Well, as some of you may know, unfortunately the men had their way, and then nature had its way, and Atlantis sank. Boom. Due to the misuse of technology. Versus Lemuria, Mu, where we are now. These being the mountaintops, these islands in particular. Which had its debacle, if you will, or cataclysm, due to misuses of spiritual energy. A little difference there. So you like to think we're going to learn something, right, by all of this, and not keep making the errors plaguing us as before. They're supposed to learn. They say those who don't learn from history are doomed to repeat it. And that's true in every case. So we get then to this point, you see, where we have to do this. And so in a sense, believe it or not, though you may think of yourselves as perhaps students, if you will. You're taking a class, so technically they may be what you are today. I see you as teachers. Because after today, you will be teachers, or can be if you choose to be, in this particular area. What's the value? Plenty. We're entering an age of do-it-yourself. We're entering a time when everyone's going to be the well-rounded person and able to do many things, the so-called jack or Jill of all trades. So we're entering that time, and so less and less are we going to be thinking in terms of going to this person or going to that one or going to that one for anything. As time goes on, by the time 2,000 more years goes by, it's going to be a whole new scene, and you'll find that whatever it is that you need, you'll usually be able to do it for yourself one way or the other. Or you won't need it. So it's a whole new ballgame here we're entering. And so the beginnings of that are this very thing. Now here, let's give an example. You're going, well, let's see, what does he mean? What is he headed for? This, 2 years down the road, 2002, you're visiting someone, let's say Outer Island, and doesn't matter if they're a relative, friend, doesn't matter. And a lady that you may be visiting says to you, I've got this neighbor, and I really, really don't like her, and I don't think she likes me. But guess what? We're here. This is our property. We're going to stay. And I have a funny feeling they ain't going anywhere either. We got a problem here. We really do. I don't know why, but the minute I looked at her, I couldn't stand her, and I could tell she had the exact same reaction. Okay? So she goes, I don't know what to do about it. And it really bothers me because every day I wake up, I look out my window, and there she is, or there's her house. And so now here, what was once paradise is becoming hell. Any suggestions? I would say that's a pretty good reason to consider past lives. Why else would it be? Think about it, yeah? Why else would it be? I mean, why else would you have such a thing, right? On sight? You all know about love at first sight? Well, it's recognition at first sight is what it is. We will tend to take up with another soul where we left off when we first encounter them. So, if you had a falling out with somebody, and the last time you saw them, you hated their guts, to put it bluntly, well, when you see them again, you may not feel like you want to run up and hug them and kiss them. You might like, ugh, I remember this. Just the vibration, you'll recognize it. Your soul will anyway. You're like, Vice versa, you'll be drawn. Now, again, every life is different, which isn't to say just whatever it was, no matter what, good or bad, so-called, that you have to just kind of fall right in and just be, and just do the dumb thing, as we like to say. Okay, well, that's the way it was before, I'll do it again. No. You want to be a little more intelligent and so on. But that would be, I would imagine, a really good situation to look into. Can you see what I mean? There you'd be when you go, I suspect past lives are involved here. And if you feel so inclined, you'd have to wait for the inner sanction usually. You could say, well, and depending on how open the lady was, you might say to her, I'm getting an intuitive feeling this is a past life situation. Would you like to look into it? See what I'm saying? You will have that power. You will have that ability to open a certain door, a certain window, a certain dimension, literally. But you got to know that what you're opening is like almost Pandora's box. You got a lot of things out. So this is something that has to be like prayed on, thought about, waited for. That's what I'm saying. You understand? That's why the seriousness of it. If you decide to do it and she's open, what could happen? Oh, something like this. You could regress her, and she could go, oh my God, she was my sister before. We were in love with the same man. I married him, and she took him away from me. And I hated her ever since. Okay, cool. Now we've got reasons. I mean, why the dislike anyway, okay? What do we do about it? What do we, just leave it there? Okay, now you know. And, no. You would want to go at it something like this. Okay, I want you to look into the fact that for whatever reason she did this, she did it out of insecurity probably, whatever reason. Maybe she and he had some yet previous past life situation. I mean, there's a lot of ways you could investigate this, but the point is, we're getting to the point of knowledge. We're getting to the point of finding out why, and that alone will diffuse it. Believe me, it will. If you know something about that, her reactions are going to be different when she sees that lady again. She may end up, and hopefully would, with something like a feeling of compassion, maybe, hopefully. If nothing else, an understanding. Why? And the minute she knows it, she begins to telepathically, subliminally convey it to the lady in the next house. One day, the lady might look at her and go, hi, and smile. We've got a breakthrough. That's the correct use of this ability. That's what we're here for. You see what I'm saying? It's a healing tool. It's got to be. What else would it be? It is not a parlor game. It is not to satisfy curiosity like I did. Don't do what I did, because if you do, you'll end up in hell like I did for a while. I really did. I screwed up a relationship, and you know what? The honest truth, it has remained screwed up to the present hour. My friend and I are not the same. It's too bad. Kind of sad. We're okay. We talk, but it's not the same. I'd like to think it will get better, but because there's a love there, but it's hard for that to be. I'm okay with it, but the other side isn't, because it just. See? So you see what I'm saying? Have I scared you enough? Okay. Have I impressed you enough with this? Okay. I don't want to hear any one of you going out there and starting to, advertising, want to know about past lives? Okay, come on in. One will cost you this, two will cost you this, three will cost you this. Don't do it. You'll end up in hell, I promise you. You really would, even while you're still alive in this life, and it's probably one of the worst places to be in hell. So there we go. Okay, so you understand what we're all about here. Okay, now the technique or process that we're going to achieve this through is going to be repeated various times today. We're going to do it not just once. We're going to do it several times. Why? Because it's like anything. The more times you do something, you tend to get better at it. And so we're going to do that. I have a few words of caution, and it would be this. Be very slow, please, about saying you're not getting anything. Please be very slow about that, okay? Because, I mean, I've taught seminars and classes for years and years, or decades, literally. And, you know, you're like, I'm not seeing nothing. I'm not seeing nothing. You know, right away, you know. Like little kids. I was like, shut up. I won't say that to you. I'm sorry. But, see how rude he is, huh? Well, it's because I think, you know, it's just that, you know, we live in a world of where everything's push button, microwave, you know what I mean? Everything's fast, fast, fast. Instant coffee, instant this, instant that. You know, everyone thinks that spirit should be instant too. Well, it isn't. Thank God. It isn't. We got to take our time. So what I'm saying is that when you get into the certain state that we're going to be getting into, and by the way, we will not really be doing this like one-on-one, at least not at this point. There's a chance we may do that as one of the last things we do today, but I'm still not sure we're going to do it that way. It'll be a very individual thing. Each one of you is going to be lying down, probably somewhere on this floor somewhere, and processing it individually, okay? So it won't be like kind of a show and tell thing, and it won't be like, well, you do her and you do her, you know, it won't be like that. I don't think that's where we need to go with this. It'll be very individual. So there's nothing you need to, shall I say, come up with. It's not a test. There's no wrong answers. You cannot fail. So, you see what I'm saying? You should take that whole element out of it. You don't have to do anything. You're here because you choose to be. Okay? I am here to show you how to access certain levels of consciousness. But please understand that these are things that you were not taught in school, that you probably have never, most of you I imagine have never done this before. So it's something that takes time, and you got to be real patient with yourself, okay? Please. So please be slow about saying I'm not getting anything. Because as a matter of fact, you probably are real close to perceiving something if you think you're not getting something, and if you would just slow down a little bit and get a little calmer, you might find something is really there. So that would be a key you want to remember, okay? Be very calm, very patient with yourself, because this is not the kind of thing that's going to come at you with, you know, blaring trumpets and bright lights. Probably not. Probably not. I like to say this because in all of the psychic development classes I've taught, and I know various of you have taken them, you'll get that a lot. I'm not getting anything. And I'm sitting there, and I'm aware of the guides who might be standing right behind the person, and they're going, we've been trying to tell her, you know, 10 times. But she's so, you know, convinced that she's not getting anything. So you don't even want to say that. Get it? That's counterproductive. I'm saying it for your sake. Don't waste your money. And your time, and mine. No, you really, don't go there. If you think you're not getting anything, don't say it. Don't think it. Okay? And again, this isn't like you're faking anything, of course not. But the minute you say it, you are putting a force in motion. I don't suggest it. It goes against what we're here to do. Get it? So you don't want to do that. If it appears that nothing is coming readily, just wait. Work with it. Stay with it. Chances are, as long as you keep the door open, because see, we're in a force field that is for that very purpose. This was not my idea alone. This was suggested, believe me. I never would do such a thing, just, oh, let's see, what'll I do next Sunday? You know, I don't do that kind of thing. You know, I usually get direct word, and I did on this, as I did on all the lectures I did this fall, and all the classes that we gave, see? These things are guided. And I won't do them otherwise. So understand that there's a reason for it, that obviously it is being sponsored by those who are beyond this world, who know good and well what people are ready for, and who probably saw to it that each and every one of you got here and are here today. See? So, you know, there's reasons to believe that you're going to get something. You know, there's reason to, the fact that you had enough impetus coming from within yourself to get here, to set aside every other thing you could do for a whole day. You know, come on, that must mean something. You know, and it does, believe me. So again, I'm just asking you to consider these things on the pure standpoint of logic and realize that there's reasons why you're here. Okay? So and chances are, those of you who are here because you do need to find out something about what happened before. And we're going to try, I said we're going to do this various times. We are. Well, there'll be times when, for instance, I will say now this time, the angle will be a difficult relationship you have. And nobody tell me you don't have one, because I'll fish it out. Don't tell me. Okay, you know, because I know that everyone has had one. If you don't have one now, you probably have had one. You know, I can't imagine no one ever has. It doesn't. It just. I can't imagine it. So, because that just happens to be part of the lessons of life, is relationships. It's a big one. So, and they're usually not all wonderful and smooth. It's nice when most of them are, but you know, it's gonna come. It's gonna happen, even if it's something you have to go in your past for. But whatever it is, I might say, okay, this one, pick a person. In fact, the person who has given you the most grief, who has been the thorn in your side, who has hurt you, who has broken your heart, whatever. You know, and I'm sure you can come up with somebody. And that'll be the person we're going to investigate, okay? Where did you know this person before? What was the relationship? What did you do? Because we have to take responsibility, of course, for everything. You know, it's not them, right? It takes two to tango, as they say. So everybody here, in a situation like that, has had something to do with it. You know, and I know you're all, you know, mature enough to accept that. I mean, not me, her. You know, because if there wasn't something in you, you wouldn't even know her, is the honest truth of it. The fact that you're so closely involved says a lot. See? So, and that's another thing, which brings me to my next point. We're just rolling right along. I'm amazed. What time is it? And it's this. Watch out for the guilt. You're bound to run into something. Why do you think there's a memory veil? So you won't remember how bad you've been. No, actually, the errors, the mistakes, we learn through trial and error. So obviously, your past is a whole record of your trials and errors, right? And that's really, seriously, it's one of the main reasons. There are two that I know of. One of the main reasons why we do not recall normally past lives, because to think back and remember even one life, even one, and remember it, I mean, in its entirety, which means you're going to remember all the mistakes you made, all the things. It's bad enough at the end of each life, you know, we all review that. You might have heard that. It's true. So that's hard enough, I hear. You know, I mean, I don't remember that myself really clearly, but I've been told about it a lot by all these dead people I talk to, you know. They tell me that, you know, when you cross over, that's part of the process. You do reacclimating. You will review the life. I mean, minutely. I like to remember that movie, Defending Your Life, that when I mentioned, it's kind of funny, isn't it? Albert Brooks, it's so funny, yeah, it is. And Meryl Streep, it was hysterical. It's really funny. If you ever have not seen it, you might want to pick it up. It's really worth it. It's a lovely movie. Albert Brooks, Defending Your Life. Yeah, it's called Defending Your Life. I don't know what that happened in comedy or what. It should be. Drama, maybe, I don't know. Probably comedy. It's a comedy. It's funny as all get out. And in it, you know, they have a dramatization, but there's, you know, it's like these movies, they're really quite true. I mean, you know, it's really real. So they're looking at the life to decide whether they should move forward or not, you know. And that indeed it does happen. The only difference would be, in the movie, it would appear that there's like a panel of judges and these people who are all looking at the life. And from what I understand, it's not quite done like that. You do it yourself. You do have, if you want only, counselors that will be with you and will point out to you things that you will be seeing to help you understand it, you know. And what I hear is that there are people on hand who are sitting there going, there, it isn't that bad, you know. Because you can imagine, oh my God, oh wow, you know, yeah, you know, the guilt, that terrible guilt. Avoid it, my dears, avoid it. Because it doesn't do any good, and it's, I guess I have to tell you what I've been told about guilt, just to clear that one up. I was told quite a while back that guilt was a psychological club that some people discovered a long time ago they could use to manipulate other people. That was the beginning of guilt. Because at the beginning there really was no guilt as such. Realize that, like, okay, when the guides first began coming through me, Sir Arthur in particular, he has taken a theme, you know, and he'll just harp on that forever, or what it seems that way. And we, oh yeah, got it already, God, thanks, you know. But he doesn't quit. He's, and it's just, and I'm glad he does now, because I realize that it's because we don't get it usually in the dimension that he would like us to. Then he'll go on to the next thing. Well, the first thing was there is no death. You know, that was the first one, of course, you know. But then at one point it was failure. That was the topic. And what he kept saying is, there is no such thing as failure. Failure is an illusion, like death. It appears real, it is not. What do you mean? I failed the test. What do you mean? I mean, I just didn't get it. Miscalculation is the word. You thought it was something, well, it wasn't. It was something else. But you understand the concept of failure is different than that. It's one thing to make a mistake, miscalculate. Oh, I thought it was a right turn, it's a left turn. Okay, I'll turn around and make it right. See, there's a difference to, I failed. The vibration goes down. And you lose perspective and you go into these terrible places, these pits. And so a long time ago, what the guides say was that some people watched other people experimenting, trying to do something, whatever, and fall short of the mark. Well, hey, you do. Ever see a kid when he first starts trying to shoot basketball? He doesn't make everyone. In fact, he doesn't make anyone for a long time. Finally, they do. It's called miscalculation. You have to train your muscles. You have to train your perception. And there comes a point where you're just doing it like that effortlessly. The subconscious mind kicks in. So, trying to do something is a very natural part of the process of getting it down, right? That's what we do. So are you telling me that every time that you don't quite do it, that becomes now a reason why you should feel badly? No, of course not. See? But you see where the failure thing comes in, and therefore the guilt trails right after it. So bottom line, what we're getting at is that you want to avoid guilt because it does no good, and therefore if anybody tries to guilt trip you, you really got to know that A, they are acting ignorantly. And you really, really, really want to avoid that. Now, I realize this is such a deeply ingrained thing that we'll have to make a supreme effort to avoid it, but you really, really need to, I think. It's a real pitfall. It is. It is, very much so. So in the course of looking at the past lives, it's inevitable that you're going to see miscalculations, mistakes, call them what you want. Times when you did something maybe wasn't the wisest thing to do. Okay, please avoid the guilt. You want to stay objective. You want to be able to look at it as if you were looking at somebody else's movie. Not your own. Try it. It won't be easy all the time. But you want to try and do that because there'll be times when those things come up. I might have mentioned to some of you that in the early part of my own training as a medium, the guides put me through various, things because it was important for my work. One of them was to show me some of my worst past lives. That wasn't fun. It was not fun. I was shocked. I was humiliated. I was saddened. I was heartbroken. I was nauseated in one case. I can't believe it. I can't believe that I did that. You did it. It's like, remember that was a commercial? But, was it the Alka-Seltzer commercial? I can't believe I ate the whole thing. You ate the whole thing, Ralph, Yeah. It's like, we sometimes can't believe that we did this or that, because it's not who we are today. But the reason we are who we are today is because we did it. See what I'm saying? Now that's why you recoil from it. That's why, because you know the impact. You know what that caused. You might still be suffering from it. Chances are you are. So, you know what I mean? It's the last thing you want to do is, that's how we learn, right? So, but you understand, it's all part of the big game of life. It's all in the game. So we have to look at it that way. It's important. So all of this I'm saying to educate you, to update you, perhaps, whatever, to the way that the higher plane inhabitants see these things. That these are not things that should be dealt with a sense of negativity or dread or especially guilt. Because you're bound to find something. As a matter of fact, there's going to be one particular time when I'm going to specifically ask you to look for that. Because you need to. You need to. And how I'll put it is this. I will say, what I'd like you to do now is go into your past archives, your records, and ask to be shown a lifetime in which you might have greatly violated cosmic law. And I will be sharing with you simply what was shared with me. What's the purpose of it? I mean, I don't have a morbid curiosity, in what you come up with. It's rather because in seeing that, like with myself, you learn to have a great compassion for yourself, number one, and then for other people. So you see what I mean? You're far less likely after that to criticize others. How can you? When you see what you did. You know what I mean? Can't do that. You'd be a real hypocrite, and I know none of you are. So we'll get past that one real quick. Okay? Look for that worst thing you ever did in your whole life. in all your lives. And again, there'll be a reason for it. But again, we're calling to our higher selves, to our greater principle, to guide what is given. This is the correct way to do this. But again, there's an incorrect way. That would just be like being like a bull in a china shop, just bursting in and trying to see whatever you can see. Not wise, believe me, not wise. Because you'll find that you'll see things probably, but you probably wish you hadn't because of the way it's done. All right, so there we go. See how you want to avoid guilt. You'll find that when you look into certain things that you have done, the good news is that because you see, it takes what we call superconscious awareness to even see these things. We will be dealing with a superconscious mind today. The superconscious mind, the higher self, if you will, works through the subconscious. Some would say, but I thought all my memories were in the subconscious. On one level, you could say that, but it is the superconscious that will retrieve the specific memory you need to look at and put it before you. If that's what you want. See what I mean? So it's done correctly. So you're looking at the right thing because that's what you're ready to look at. See? Again, the incorrect way would just be to burst into the subconscious and just start rummaging through things and see what you come up with, and not a good idea. So these are the things we're going to do today. Okay, I'd like to stop here briefly, and are there any questions about anything I've said or anything I haven't said? Anybody? Yeah.
Arthur, you had said an example of the person with the next door neighbor that they didn't get along with, and
yep.
so you would, if they wanted to go back into a past life and find out, and then you said so they'd find out, and then you'd want to heal the situation, so then you'd go back to another one and find out. Say the first life you looked at, you found out what they did to you. Then you go back again and find out what precipitated that, like what you did to them. Is that what you keep doing to heal it? Or?
Well, it only, I was using that like as an example of what might occur. Yeah, it's not a hard and fast rule. No, so lots of times just by going into the life that you're given, that'll do it. For instance, let's say the case I gave. I merely mentioned that it just could occur that you would see that. Let's just say you looked into that life the way I gave it, okay? And the neighbor lady who had been your sister, perhaps at the time, was fascinated with your husband, okay? Well, you'd want to wonder why. Where did that come from? So you might have to actually go into yet a previous life, and the idea is one day you'll trace it down, and if you can see that maybe those two were soulmates or had a heavy number or something before, then you can at least understand her obsession in that life, and then therefore understand why the whole thing happened at all. You see, the understanding is what releases the energy.
So that doesn't necessarily happen looking at one lifetime. So you're saying to bring it to a closure in a sense, as much as you can. Because even just seeing it sometimes won't make it really any better in some situations.
In some it won't, but I'll tell you what, the majority I would say it will. Yeah, it really will. Yeah. In some cases, no, it might not. And you might have the need to go back, But that usually becomes obvious as you're observing it. It does. That's another thing. As I said, we're going to be working a lot with a superconscious mind today. And we'll be working with clairvoyance. And I hope that doesn't throw anybody. And what I mean by that is that you obviously, to see anything that you see with your eyes closed, you obviously must be working with clairvoyance. I mean, because your eyes are closed and you're seeing something, not supposed to. Right? Not supposed to see anything with your eyes closed. What if you do? Well, then obviously you're looking with a different kind of vision, right? You are. So this becomes then, so why I said I hope that doesn't throw you, because there may be one or two you hear who have a real strong belief that you're not clairvoyant. Not me. He is, she is, but not me. I suggest you leave that at the door. Because otherwise, again, you're wasting your time and your money and mine. Yeah, you need to. Clairvoyance is that the sight of the soul, the sight of the mind, if you will. Some people are more comfortable with that mental sight. And this brings a very good point up, speaking of clairvoyance, and it's this. One of my early psychic teachers was a lady who would have me sitting with her when she did readings, so I would, like subliminally pick up what she was doing. I didn't know I was doing that at the time, but that's what it was. And she'd say, "Do you see anything?" I was going, "Nope." "You see anything?" "Nope, nope." And I thought I wasn't seeing anything. And she said, "Wait a minute." And one day she looked at me and she said, she really looked at me and she saw what I was seeing and not seeing. And she said, "Wait a minute, you are expecting to see this huge color picture in front of you. That's, like a frame, core, And she's like, wrong. And I was, because I didn't know any better, right? Most of us don't. She said, let me give you an example. She said, close your eyes, and I closed mine. She said, you have a favorite beach? Well, most kids do, and I was a kid then, I was 17. She said, visualize it, imagine it. I don't think she used the word visualize, but imagine it. Got it. She goes, can you see it in your mind? Yeah. You know what your bathing suit looks like, right? She goes, well, make sure you have that on, walking down the beach. Okay, got it. And she said, okay, now, as you walk down the street, you imagine that you see a friend of yours. Okay. She asked, what's your friend's name? And I forgot whatever I said. Okay. What are they wearing? I told her. Okay, now imagine there's a dog with you walking down the... So she built this whole thing, right? She goes, you see all that? She goes, that kind of sight. It almost seems like imagination, which is why people say, am I just making all this up? That's a very common question. And again, you will, at some point, have to realize that what you're experiencing is very subjective. You can't prove it. Not really. There are rare cases where you can, and people have, and it's documented. So I don't have to go there. But, so you understand, that we're dealing with the subtlest of the subtle here. That's why I said, please be very slow to say you're not getting anything. Frankly, what might be happening is there may be something playing up here, and you're looking over there. I don't see anything. Well, look up. And it's raise your vibration. And you'll find that you will. You can. You do. But it takes that. Okay? So that's what we're going to be. Doing. So it's a matter of the sight that we work with is a very, very, very subtle sight. And I'm getting the impulse as I speak right this minute to begin by, in fact, working with that very faculty. So how about if I run you all through the same thing she did me? If you don't mind, close your eyes. Everybody, close your eyes. Now, we're going to be working here with something called memory versus just pure visualization. Because if I say visualize a lovely place somewhere in the whatever, that's one thing. But I'm going to ask you to remember something. Because see, memory is more solid than visualization usually. Why? Because you've already had the experience. You've seen it. You've seen it with your physical eyes, so it made a deeper impression on the membrane of the subconscious mind. Okay, that's how it works. So just for now, if you don't mind, close your eyes, go within, take a breath or two. We're not going into a deep, deep, deep meditation here, but this is a very quick and easy exercise. So close your eyes, if you would, and take a deep breath or two. The purpose of that is that you're drawing a little more oxygen into your body temple. You're charging up the bloodstream, which will charge up the brain, and you might just find yourself a little clearer and a little sharper. Take a deep breath or two, please. A few more. A few more breaths. I want to hear a little inhaling and exhaling, please. Draw some energy and draw some oxygen in. Draw it in, please. See, you just kind of need to do this to change your body chemistry. So draw in some oxygen if you could. Okay, much better. Thank you. Okay, now, what I would like you to remember is this. A person in your past who you are no longer connected with, or at least haven't seen for a long time, but someone who you have really, really liked, whoever that may be, doesn't matter, relative, friend, lover, doesn't matter. Pick someone that you have really, really liked, someone you had a very fond thing with. It could be a favorite auntie, it could be anybody. Pick someone and remember what that person looked like or looks like. It's okay if they're still alive physically, but we want this to be someone you haven't seen in a long time because you have to rely on memory for this one. Just to share the difference, okay? Try your best and remember what they look like. And just try to remember everything about them. What they look like as clearly as you can. Remember what their hair looks like. If they have hair. Maybe they didn't. Okay? Remember their eyes, their face, their mannerisms, gestures they might have made, the way they dressed, the situation in which you usually would encounter them. Maybe their house, maybe your house. So that's where we want you to go, if you would. Take a little time with this, please. Make it as distinct as you can. This is an effort of your will. Just imagine it, if you would. Remember. It's memory we're going with here. Try to remember them. If, again, it seems a little vague, that's okay. That's actually expected. But work with it. Stay with it. See, because you've got to work with your concentration ability to do this work at all. Stay with it, please. Be patient with yourself. Make an effort. Just like if you were given an assignment in school to write a one-page report on something you know about. It takes a little effort. It's not just going to happen on its own. You've got to put some effort forth. I'm going to be quiet for a minute or two while you do that. Please do your best and try and recall every detail you can about this person. If by the way, if you're having a little difficulty with someone even someone you like, change to someone else. But the bottom line is you're going to end up with someone that you have really liked. That's because the fondness will make it easier to remember them because you want to, or at least you're open to. And remember them, please. Okay, so I'm going to be quiet a few minutes and then just do your best. If you can remember the sound of their voice, that's good. Maybe they had a characteristic smell. Many people do. They wear a certain perfume or just their natural smell. I recall a grandmother of mine had this very interesting smell. It wasn't so much an odor, it was a smell. It was just the way she smelled, It wasn't a bad odor or smell, it was just the way she was. She always had it around. It was like a perfumey thing, and I don't think she wore any.